Welcome to the Real Estate Brief. My name is Adam, and today we're cutting through a lot of the noise that we find inside of real estate news. We're going to get to kind of the truth that's inside of that news. We're going to look at all the data, talk about what the article is talking about, and I'm going to give you some of my observations and where I truly believe that you can find a lot of opportunity inside of every single headline. So look, if you're ready to gain your real estate edge in real estate, let's dive into our first story. Now, as we go through this, guys, ask me questions. Be sure to interact with me. That's all perfectly fine, right? This is not me just sitting here having a dialogue with myself. I want to, if something pops up and it triggers you, be sure to ask the question. All right. So this first story we're going to get into. Now, unfortunately, you TikTok viewers, since I am new to TikTok, I have to stream like 3 or 4 times or whatever the rules are before I can actually share my screen and split the screen up so you guys can see more. So I'll do my best to kind of elaborate on the news articles, but if I do 3 streams, I believe you'll be able to see it and I'll be able to share my screen with that. So I'll talk through this article. So let me just say, this first article here is by Newsweek.com. The title of it is Housing Market Experts Reveals Biggest 3 Mistakes Buyers Still Make. Okay. So this is that article here. Let me turn down there we go. So this is the article. So really what's happening inside of this article, this is where we need to think about this, even though we're going to be reading about it as a perspective to a buyer, and this is advice to a buyer. As an agent, what we need to be able to understand is like, where's the opportunity for us to adapt our buyer presentations and how we present ourselves to buyers and what the pitfalls are that they could stumble into that we could help them navigate that difficulty, right? So what we're going to see is we're going to go through this article and we're going to read through this and come up with the ideas behind it that helps us as agents to then help our buyers better. All right. So the title, the beginning of this is going to say, for many first-time buyers, the path of home ownership feels like navigating a system full of hidden rules, unwritten expectations, and financial traps, which is absolutely true. It's a very complex, very confusing endeavor that people hardly ever do. And your first-time buyers especially have never done it. So we are the experts in this situation, right? All right, what we're going to do is we'll jump down to number 1. The very first thing that they talk about, and this is something I think as an experienced agent, you guys know this, but we will often still fall into the trap and not realize that they might not have the number 1 thing they should have, and that's pre-approval, right? A pre-approval letter, like they can actually buy. You need what kind of buyer? You need a ready, willing, and able buyer. So as new agents, sometimes that happens. Sometimes we're anxious to get out there and start showing properties and that kind of stuff, and we forget the very first crucial step, and that is making sure they're pre-approved. So the article goes on to say this: according to Davis, failing to secure a pre-approval before shopping is one of the most costly missteps. This is the fastest way to lose leverage before the game even starts. Buyers often assume that browsing listings with a general budget in mind is harmless, but he warns that too many buyers start shopping with a vague online estimate and optimism. Sellers don't negotiate with optimism. They negotiate with certainty, right? So that's absolutely true. I think people get really excited. They want to go out and look at houses. Like, think about this, right? They're on HGTV and they're looking at the houses and they're looking at the agent taking it around and they're taking all this information and they're just enjoying it. Just like this wonderful, fun experience. Well, everybody's going to want to participate in that type of environment when they're excited about possibly buying a house. The reality, though, is how do they know what they're going to buy? They have no idea. They're just going off with what they like, what the emotional aspect of that house is that drives them to call you, the agent, to then go show the house. And sometimes as agents, we respond with some form of emotion as well. We will respond with like, oh, great, I got a buyer. Let's go out and show this, especially if you're not been in this industry for very long. That's typically the response. Oh, I got somebody on the hook. I'm going to go. And you forget this first step. So the pre-approval part is absolutely crucial. You definitely want to make sure that they're pre-approved. All right. And really, to be honest, how weak are you? How weak is the buyer if they go to negotiate and you don't even know what the pre-approval is, but they've fallen in love with a house? Like, now they are in love with a house. They don't even know if they can afford. What a horrible, horrible position for the buyer to be in that's never had this experience before. So as agents, we need to be careful not to forget to make sure they have a good, solid pre-approval. It says, without a pre-approval letter in hand, your offer is weaker. Even if it's higher, you lose time, and time kills deals. and the emotional fallout can be just as harsh. Shoppers risk falling in love with a home you can't actually afford, which is emotionally and financially brutal. Absolutely true, right? All right, number 2 is underestimating closing costs. All right. Even buyers who plan carefully for a down payment often stumble at the finish line. This is where budgets quietly blow up at the finish line, Davis said. Buyers focus on the down payment and forget the rest of the equation. Closing costs can run 2 to 5% of the purchase price, and that surprises people every single day. Though it says among the commonly overlooked items, Davis pointed out this: title and settlement fees, appraisals and inspections, prepaid taxes and insurance, escrows that hit all at once, right? You got to fund the escrow account. When those costs aren't anticipated, the fallout can be severe. The consequence is not just stress, he said. It's last minute scrambling, draining emergency savings, or worse, deals falling apart days before closing, right? So, and this is the thing, and I stress this with our own agents. It's like if you were to go in and talk to a buyer and they just tell you that they got a pre-approval and you start taking them on a house, but that they have no idea what the actual cost that they got to bring to the table is. They don't have an idea about all these other fees that we just mentioned. They are not aware of that. We encourage our agents, you need to sit down with them. When they get a pre-approval and let's say it's just a $250,000 house, you need to have an understanding as an agent what their total bottom dollar is going to be based upon the loan that they're approved for. So just because they got approval doesn't mean they're ready to go all the way to closing with a full understanding about the financial requirements to do so. So part of that buyer consultation that I would advise every single agent to have is incorporating a net proceeds sheet where it gives out, like if you were to buy a house for $250,000, here is the fees that you would pay. Now, look, we have partnerships with title companies and stuff, and that's extremely helpful. Here's the reality. Every agent should have some relationship with a title company that they can reach out to and do a quick just assessment of that purchase price and show them what their fees close could be. Some of these fees are set in stone, like your taxes and prorations, that kind of stuff based on the county that you're living in. So a lot of these fees, you could learn the math and do the calculation yourself, and you're delivering a much better experience for the buyer. So that's a very crucial thing for as an agent that we really need to be mindful of. We need to make sure that we are providing the service where there's a clarity to the funds that are coming out of their pocket to go to closing. Because what you don't want to happen is get to closing and lo and behold, they can't afford the house because they don't have the down payment and all the other fees associated with that, like inspections and things like that. And he goes on to say, but the solution doesn't require guesswork. The fix is simple, but just disciplined, he said. Budget for closing costs up front. Ask for a full estimate early and explore grants or assistant programs before you make an offer, not after. I will say there's a lot of grants out there. If you're a first-time home buyer too, there's a lot of grants and incentives and stuff. So as an agent, get familiar with what banks are offering what. That's a great way to kind of offer a better service than most agents will do. They have a list of what programs that are available to them, what that looks like, what the costs associated with those are, and what the actual program looks like long-term. So get familiar with all the different loan types and what banks are offering what. All right, number three is allowing emotions to drive the decision. We kind of touched on this briefly. So it says this: emotion is unavoidable in the home buying process. Very true. It's an emotional endeavor all the way across, and we got to keep that in mind to be professionals. People can be erratic and do crazy things. We got to give them a lot of grace, right? But he argues emotion is human. Overpaying because of it is optional. That's a good quote. Emotion is human. Overpaying because of it is optional. Buying a home is personal. That's the problem. It's a very personal endeavor, right? But what we're doing though is when it comes to the funds and the financial aspect of it, that is not where we place emotion. We place cold, hard facts into the equation, right? That's what we do, right? Oh, thank you, Cassie. Thank you so much for the flower. The funny thing is I have this on TikTok. I'm learning. Cassie, I'm going to have to call you. I don't know what that means, but awesome. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm a newbie at TikTok. That's so funny. That's great. But yeah, emotions is absolutely part of it. He says he's seen buyers bid far above value because they felt it and waive inspections they absolutely needed, along with stretching their budget so thin that home ownership became a burden, not a blessing. Yep. According to Davis, the key is grounding the decision in discipline. When emotions run the show, buyers overpay today and regret it tomorrow. The antidote is structure. Set your walkaway number in advance. Trust the data. Lean on professionals, you guys, right, who will tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. A good deal should still feel good 5 years from now. You know, this is the thing is if you get in the habit of having a really good, solid buyer consultation, you are bringing way more value than the average agent does. Now, hopefully I'm talking to an audience that does this, and maybe the percentage and ratio is way different. Maybe you guys are doing really good buyer consultations. But just think about the experience. Put yourself in a new buyer's position, right? Or even any buyer's position at that matter, right? If you put yourself in that position, think about the overwhelming, scary aspect of buying a house looks like. There are so many unknowns, right? There's the unknown. If I buy this house, something might break and now I'm responsible to fix it. There's the unknown of negotiating in the future about what that looks like. But guess what you can do by sitting down and have a buyer consultation? You can diffuse the things that are unknown that can be known before you go to closing. That's what those buyer consultations are really good for. And so what does that look like? Well, that looks like taking all of your agreements, taking all of your contracts, sitting down with the client and walking them through and explaining to them, hey, I know we're not ready to make an offer. We've not even looked at houses just yet. But what I'm going to do is I want to equip you and get you prepared in every aspect of all the controllable things that I can in regards to the paperwork, the closing costs, the fees, all those type of things. I'm going to lay it all out for you. We're going to sit down. I'm going to walk you through the contracts, all the agreements you'll be signing. So when the time comes, you are very familiar with what that looks like, right? So that way, when you now go throughout the process of looking at homes, you've addressed the things that could be emotional, remove those things with the clear data that they need. So now they can just worry about the things that is emotional and the fear part of it that is somewhat unknown. But you've addressed the things that could be known to diffuse the emotional aspect of it. Much, much better buyer experience. And a good experience drives referrals. It drives a good, solid relationship. I'm all about relationship marketing. I'm not a big guy when it comes to like hype. I am all about relationship, people connecting and knowing them. I think that is the absolute long game. And if anybody's listening that has been in this industry for a long time, let me know if you agree with that by giving a big thumbs up or something in the chat. I think I'm going to see an overwhelming amount of thumbs. All right. And then it says here a larger systemic issue. Beyond individual missteps, Davis believes the real roots of buyer confusion run deeper. The biggest mistake I see isn't tactical, it's systemic. He said, many buyers were never taught how mortgages work, how credit is evaluated, or how to plan for long-term ownership costs. When education is missing, mistakes multiply. That's why access to responsible guidance, not just cheap rates, matters so much. There's a lot in this article to really think through. It seems like when we first started this article as a very simple thing. Here's the thing. Delivering really good value to somebody is caring about their position. And if you care for their position, you're going to have these kind of conversations. And I want you to think about what was just said there, right? What was just said is very, very true. In our culture, the whole idea of financial education is so lacking. We are taught in school, history, science, math, English. We are taught the basics extremely well and over every single year. How many of you guys went to school and they broke down mortgage, interest rates, checkbooks, managing money, financial planning, financial investment, right? This is a lacking service in our industry, and in America, quite frankly. I mean, it's kind of appalling in some ways. And I will say, if you've been in this industry for any amount of time at all, you know exactly what I'm saying. How much did you understand about buying a house and the process of what a mortgage is, how underwriting works, how interest rates fluctuate and all that? How much did you truly know before you became an agent, right? I guarantee you, and I'm going to just make a claim, probably 90%, if not more, knew nothing about real estate in the process and what it looks like, right? That needs to change. We got to change that. I mean, we've got to be educators in the environment that we find ourselves in regards to what it takes to actually buy a house. All right. That's the first article. So I always do this. So those that are new to my channel and just observing, what I typically will do here is I will highlight a news article. I will dissect it. I will put some observations on it as far as what I see. I will elaborate on a few things. And then at the end, I kind of just summarized it with some quick takeaways for you guys to then hopefully apply to your business. So this will be, I again, those are on TikTok. I don't know how TikTok works, if it saves a whole live stream or what that is. But this will also be available on my YouTube channel. You can go back and watch these things. I gave a tip last week talking about you can take the YouTube video URL, paste it into like a Gemini, Chat GPT or something, and say, give me action items. You can do this with any video, and it'll extract, because it has the transcription, it'll extract details from this, and you can just say, hey, pull out the action items, and you can use those and then apply them to your business to hopefully make yourself get better at delivering a better service to your clients. Anyway, I say all that to get ready to now give you my observations and kind of those takeaways. What I would say in this article is I would develop some form of a side-by-side comparison sheet, what it looks like to buy now versus waiting 6 to 12 months with any kind of a projected appreciation and change in interest rates that you have seen being forecasted in the news, right? Now, given variances there, that's fine, but doing some side-by-side comparisons that when you go to sit down with your buyers and you have this consultation, you can show them the true cost of buying now versus waiting, so they have a clear idea that if they're on the fence about buying, if it's a good idea or not, you have the actual data. Because again, they're going off of emotion. Is now a good time? Oh, the news is saying this, and if the interest rates are doing this, and I'm not sure if I really should be buying right now, and all these emotions, right? Having that sheet to talk about the difference, very, very crucial to help navigating a lot of the emotion that comes with buyers. I would then also make sure that you have a checklist. When you sit down with a buyer and you're doing a consultation with them, I would have a hidden cost checklist, right? That you sit down with them and you show them all the things we just mentioned, right? The appraisals, the inspections, the buy downs that maybe will be possible, the incentives, all the things it looks like, all the costs that also associate with buying a house, transfer tax, all the things that come with buying a house that are more pretty much standard on almost every closing that we pay, right? There are certain fees that every client will pay, and you can call a title company and get some projections on there, maybe have it fillable, but I would create a pre-purchase audit checklist showing the buyer hidden costs. Add that into your buyer presentation. Then I would lean very heavily into talking to the buyer and educating them on what we can find as truth and data, and then how emotions are going to work throughout the whole transaction. I would get them mentally prepared to be able to understand what it's like to go through the process of buying a house. We as agents take it for granted. We understand that when you get something under contract, we're not done yet. We have a long way to go. Guess what? Your buyers don't understand that. They have not seen what you've seen. So this is an opportunity when you're having a buyer consultation to sit down with them and explain to them in detail all the hurdles that they've got to get to. The first step is getting something under contract, right? That's the first step of the purchasing process. But we've got a long way to go. So walk them through the entire process, get them ready and what that looks like to be able to then close on a deal, but navigate it with less emotion. Take a lot of that emotion stuff away, right? That's what we want to do. All right. I went through that one a little bit longer than I planned on, but honestly, I didn't expect that one to have as much depth to it, but it kind of did. There's a lot there, guys. It's a simple thing, but I will say most of our success is found in the simple. Most of the stuff is found in the simple. All right. This next one, for those on TikTok that can't see my screen, this is coming to you from nar.realtor. It's the National Association of Realtors actual page. The title of this article is The 2026 New Home Market, a Rare Opportunity for Buyers. All right. So here we go. The interesting thing is this is by, this is Robert Dietz. Robert Dietz is under a Q&A with the National Association of Realtors. And Robert Dietz is the chief economist for the National Association of Home Builders. So that's his position. I actually had him on the show many years ago when we were going through the era of the pandemic, right? When we were going through that whole thing. I actually had him come on because, things were going crazy, and everybody that was in the industry knows if you were alive, you know how crazy that time period was. And I actually had Robert Dietz come on and talk a lot about, what was going to be the future of home building and what that looked like going through the pandemic. And it was a great interview. It's still up on the YouTube channel if you guys want to go back and watch that. Obviously, it's not evergreen content. A lot has changed since then. But what I will say is you can watch previous things like that to find out how accurate was this guy. And I actually went back and watched this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, this guy nailed a lot. I mean, there was a lot of speculation in that interview, but he got a lot of it right. So anyway, it validates kind of his perspective on things, in my opinion, to some degree, right? He's human, still get things wrong. But anyway, I thought it was good. So what we're going to find in this article here is basically NAR is interviewing Robert Dietz, right? And he's talking about kind of where there is a rare opportunity inside of the new construction industry, and that new inventory is starting to kind of show up, and builders are realizing that they need to make some adjustments and figure this out. So they are adjusting things to figure out what it's going to look like in the future for new building. Like there's a little bit of reduction in buying, in the cost of homes and those type of things as well. So let's just get into this. So Cassie, thank you so much for another gift. I got a heart. So get, I know, this is great. That's good. Thank you. All right. For this one here, it says, for the first time in years, the price gap between newly built homes and existing homes is narrower than ever. And in some markets, the typical resale home is actually more expensive than a new build. A mix of builder price cuts, widespread incentives, and smaller home sizes has brought new home pricing more in line with resale values, creating a potentially unusual buying window for prospective home buyers. I say this, and we'll jump straight into the interview here. And I'm just going to jump on down to give you some context. But I wanted to start there because, like, as an agent, we can fall into the trap where we already have in our mind for the past few years that new built homes we might not promote as much because we feel like they're more expensive. And we might have a buyer that kind of says, look, I don't want to pay for a new home because they're just more expensive. I'm getting less square feet for the cost, those type of things. Probably not too bad out there. That's probably not the case, but it is the case in a lot of regions. So what we're going to need to frame our minds around this is listen to this and pay attention, and then realize that there's opportunity here, then there's a shift going on, and we need to see what this actually looks like. So, all right. So it begins with this question. They asked him, Robert Dietz, what's your outlook for the new home market for 2026? Pause for coffee. He responds with, we are starting to see some modest improvements. One of the biggest tailwinds is the Federal Reserve's easing of its short-term interest rate. Now, given this doesn't necessarily that the Federal Reserve reducing that interest rate doesn't necessarily correlate to a drop in mortgage rates, right? But it might even get into this. I might be jumping ahead, but what it could do though is it could adjust the cost of buying materials, the cost of other types of loan programs that builders will typically go into. And so if those numbers come down, so the amount of money that cost to actually borrow money from a bank to build a new home goes down, then there's a little bit of room there that brings that affordability back down. So I maybe that's exactly what he says, but we'll see. While the Fed doesn't directly control, it literally said it like the very next sentence. While the Fed doesn't directly control mortgage rates, its actions matter a lot on the supply side. Okay, we're going to skip on down. I already elaborated on that. For 2026, we're forecasting about a 1% increase in single-family home building and similar 1% gain in new home sales. Existing home sales should rise more sharply as inventory improves, but many of the same challenges. Policy uncertainty, there's a lot of that. Lingering tariff effects on a lot of materials that we import to build, and the broader housing deficit will remain. So there's still some factors here that's causing this gap, right? We don't really know how this will pan out in 2026 and going forward, but he goes on, and this is the next question that he was asked. The question that NAR asked him was, builder incentives have been making headlines and are helping to lower the cost for home buyers. Tell us more about what type of incentives builders are offering. Okay, so agents, listen up. So here's the incentives. This is the part where I'm going to say, go talk to your builders in your local area and see what they're doing in response to this. I would even say, hey, look, take this article to them. It's posted in the description, by the way. Take the article to them and say, hey, look, some builders are doing these type of things. Are you doing anything, right? In response to what this affordability gap that we see. All right, so Robert Dietz responds. He says, incentives are very elevated right now. And that's good news for buyers. About 40% of builders cut prices in December, with average reductions around 5%. Nearly 2/3 are also offering other incentives. One of the most common tools, especially among larger builders, is mortgage rate buy downs. In other words, buying the rate down for an X amount of time to make the home more affordable for somebody getting a loan. It says builder, yeah, goes on, says it again. Builders are using their financial resources to lower buyers' mortgage rates for the first 2 or 3 years, helping to ease monthly payment pressures. Other incentives include amenity upgrades, so making concessions to give slightly upgrades, keeping the price closer to the same. And it says also, and closing cost assistance. So if the closing cost is really high, they're offering those things in, right? So we just talked about, with the buyers and what we need to do with them and help them navigate the expense of that. Well, now you got new built homes that are offering more of the incentives to pay more of the closing costs. Though there are limits to how much builders can offer, still, it's one of the industry's main ways of responding to ongoing affordability challenges. So that's where we find ourselves. So the builders are realizing that these things are happening. They're wanting to move more properties. The Federal Reserve rate coming down has helped them be able to take shorter term loans out or lower interest rate loans based on the supply. We still have some issues at play here. Obviously, tariffs and other things, imports and things like that, still affecting us. But what they are doing now, they're offering buy downs. They're offering to upgrade some amenities for home buyers that want maybe a different type of tile or different types of counters or whatever it may be. They're giving some concessions there. They're also giving closing cost assistance and buy downs of rates. So there's a lot of opportunity on this side. So go out and talk to your builders. Go out and talk to builders in your area. Talk to agents. Even if you don't represent a builder and all your builders are represented by another agent, guess what? Call the other agent. Call them and ask them questions about it. Hey, I've got some buyers coming into town. What kind of incentives does your builder offer for buyers coming to their home? See if they're offering anything. You might not just know, right? It's good service for your buyers. All right, the next question that NAR asked Robert Dietz, it said, you've often said we need to build our way out of the affordability crisis. What does that look like? He responded with, the only long-term solution to housing affordability is more supply. Yes. Economics is actually pretty simple. Supply and demand. I mean, it all comes down to that. Then it gets more complex, right? It says more multifamily units, more homes for sale and for rent. A clear indicator of the shortage is that nearly 20% of young adults now live with their parents. Whoa, wow. Historically, that figure is closer to 10. Wow, it's almost doubled. The doubling is a direct reflection of the housing deficit we're facing. That's an issue, right? That is something we need to see. And when we get into the next conversation too, if I'm going to mention what Trump's been doing, and he's been throwing out all these different incentives and different ideas and different plans and all that kind of stuff. And it's a testing of the market. It's like throw this out there and see if it sticks and what happens, right? That's kind of what's happening. It's like, how do we address this affordability gap? What does that look like? Agree or disagree with Trump doesn't really matter. He's throwing out a bunch of different ideas and then he just lets it land and the media then goes crazy and then people weigh in and give their opinions and then they assess it and they either implement it or they try to pass it or they don't, right? It's just, that's what it is. So we do know that this is a factor, right? There's a deficit in the affordability gap. There's a major affordability gap going on. How do we fix it, right? So there's a lot of things we need to be addressing. All right. It says the question was, one area that's seen growth on the construction side is townhomes. Why are they gaining traction? And he responds, townhomes have been on one of the bright spots in an otherwise challenging market. Today, about 18% of single-family construction consists of townhomes, up from less than 10% a decade ago. They offer what we call light touch density. Well, that's a good term. I've never heard this one. Light touch density. A smaller lot, shared walls, but still a front door and a path into homeownership. Demand is strong, particularly among younger buyers looking for walkable communities. The challenge is on the supply side. Many zoning laws still limit this type of development. Okay, so and I've actually read a whole article about this. There's a lot of zoning stuff that's being challenged at this city, state, or county, state, and national level, putting pressure to change some zoning laws that limit the amount of what we call just open doors, right? It's like how much, front door policies, how many front doors can we have built in our area? And there's certain really condensed areas that have zoning laws that doesn't allow certain homes to be built on smaller lots. So now you can't increase the amount of homes because you have old regulation that might need to be revisited. So there's a lot of pushback coming there. So now he goes on, we see real opportunity in redeveloping underused properties like dying shopping malls into mixed-use communities with apartments and townhomes. That kind of redevelopment could be a big part of the future. He said, and then the question was asked again, are builders also reducing costs by building smaller homes? He responds, absolutely. The median new home size has been trending downward for about a decade. That there was a brief post-COVID bump due to the Zoom room phenomenon, but overall, homes are getting smaller as builders respond to affordability pressures. Between smaller lots, more townhomes, and reduced square footage, builders are actively trying to right-size homes for today's buyers and budgets, while also working with policymakers to bring costs down farther. And then they asked the final question. They said to Robert Dietz, chief economist of the National Association of Home Builders, they asked him this, finally, what trends are you watching most closely in 2026 that could impact the new home market? He says, geography is a big one. Markets like Texas and Florida have cooled after years of rapid growth and some cyclical overbuilding. Meanwhile, we're seeing pockets of strength in the Midwest, places like Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, and Kansas City. These markets remain more affordable, are close to major universities, and are well positioned for AI and tech investment, where managing energy and heat costs matters. In fact, single-family home construction in the Midwest was already up in 2025, even as it declined nationally. We expect that outperformance to continue into 2026. Yep, it's all local, guys. Pay attention to what's going on in your market. Get equipped. Talk to builders. Be aware of them. Here's my observation. Extract some data for you. You can go back and check this out later, but let me just throw it out there in the recording. That way you guys have it. What I would advise you to do is find the local builders. Maybe if you got 3 of them in your local area, find 3 of them this week and go and talk to them about any incentives that they might be offering. What would they give? What are they giving back to buyers that come? Are they paying closing costs? Do they do buy downs? Like, what are they doing to incentivize buyers to come and buy their home over the resale market, right? If you don't have builders that are unrepresented by agents, call the agent. Ask the agent those very same questions. And then if they say that their builder's not having something, look, you can be gracious, but offer them and say, hey, look, we're noticing that across the country, a lot of builders are offering incentives to get buyers to buy their home. I've got an article that I like to share with you. Let them read this and see if there's something you can do to bring more buyers through the door. Just have the conversation, right? And then what I would do if I go back to it seems like this is like the whole conversation back to the buyer conversation, and it makes sense that we're talking about that. But today, what I would say is I would go back and create some kind of flyer or comparison sheet again to add into your buyer consultation meeting, that it compares, what is the average home maintenance of a home costs and versus like what a new build would be like. So that way, look, if you find a good deal in your house, in your area, or the builder's not really offering any incentives, but maybe he's just 5% above what the average price is in the area based on the square feet, maybe the cost of ownership of a new home is better than a resale home, right? So having a comparison like that to explain the new construction build, and then talk to them, also include inside of that presentation like a home warranty. Like what is the builder's warranty that also comes along with that home? What does that look like? And again, it goes back to having conversations with builders or agents that represent builders and being very, very familiar with what builders are offering. And then I would get equipped with understanding if they are offering any kind of buy downs, find out what buy downs look like. What does that look like, right? That's what I would do. All right. Very good. That's article number 2. I'll pause for just a second. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate everybody taking some time out of their schedule to listen to me yammer on about real estate news. I mean, this is going to be a very boring stuff, but here's the thing. It's very, very relevant for us to stay on point, right? We have got to be good agents. We have got to be informed. So that's my goal here. So if you're getting anything of value, please consider subscribing, following, liking, all those things just to help the channel do better and get this out to more people. And if you know of an agent that could benefit from this kind of information in your market, or a coworker or a broker or anybody, feel free to share it to them. And I love engagement. So feel free to, respond and chat, ask me questions and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Awesome. Let's jump into article number 3. And this will be really quick. There we go. Look, Trump's face right there at the very beginning. Oh boy. This is by Realtor.com. Sorry, TikTok, you can't see the article. Again, I apologize. We got 2 more streams, I think, guys, and I'll be able to split my screen. I think that's the way it works. So hopefully I'll have that done this week. All right. So like I said earlier, Trump has been throwing out all kinds of different scenarios into the market to talk about, changing, what it looks like to, or the affordability gap that we kind of find ourselves in. I mean, we talked about large investors, trying to ban them from investing in residential properties. He threw that idea out, right? He threw out the idea of a 50-year mortgage, which I think is just, to be honest, again, not a political thing. I don't like 50-year mortgages at all. I don't think it's a good idea. Maybe there's some use cases for those, and there's maybe an argument for those in some cases, but in reality, I'm not a fan of them. And then now we come to another one where he is proposing another thing, and this is what's happening, right? You're throwing it out into the market. You let people talk about it. You let news articles run and bash you or prove it or whatever. And then you listen to your advisors and you then rehash it and you see if it's a good idea, you see if it's not, and you try to pass regulation. That's the way this game works. This is politics 101. So that's what we see here. So this article is not about, this is not fact, this is not law, this has not happened yet. This is discussion, right? What we're doing here is just being aware, listening, and paying attention. So when these kind of things do come out, we're aware of it and we're ready to navigate it when it becomes a law or something that's possible so we can better serve our clients, all right? So here's the title of this article by Realtor.com. This is not NAR, National Association of Realtors. This is Realtor.com. The title is Trump Administration Floats 401k Withdrawals for Down Payment on a Home. Sorry, I had to pause to cough. All right. The title, or the beginning says, the Trump administration will announce a plan next week to permit Americans to draw from their 401k plans for a down payment on a home. White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett told Fox Business on Friday morning that President Donald Trump would put out the plan in Davos next week. We're still, and then quote, we're still talking about the mechanics of it. Okay, so it's still a discussion. None of this is facts, guys. So don't go run news articles and anybody says this is fact. It's not the case. We don't know the details of what this looks like just yet either. It's being floated right now. It's just floated out there. See what happens, right? Let's just monitor this and see what happens. All right. So we're still talking about the mechanics of it, but suppose that you put 10% down on a home and then you take 10% of the equity on the home and put it in an asset in your 401k. Then your 401k would grow over time as the value of your house grows. It gives you the ability to gain asset and gain equity on your home inside of your retirement plan, right? And it goes on to quote, it would be more money for retirement and you'll have solved the liquidity constraint problem and gotten yourself a house earlier in life. The idea comes as both average down payments and monthly payments for a home have almost doubled in recent years amid high interest rates and inflation, Hassett said. All right, Realtor.com economist Jake Krimmel says such an idea could be a high impact policy. So it could have a high impact on things. But he goes on to say, but there are risks of unintended consequences, given the substantial amount of money in 401k plans amid the market's growth in recent years. Now, let me just pause for just a second before we go on. When you are trying to, when you are trying to bring balance to a economy, you can't make any drastic one decision. I'll take it back. You can make a drastic decision causes major consequences one way or the other. But usually the goal is not to do that. It's usually to make micro changes over time to then see results and monitor that and keep adjusting it accordingly. So that's what we are seeing here. We're seeing all these kind of ideas being floated around here to test what the market's response would be to something like this. And that gives us the ability to kind of test the emotions a little bit. So that's what's happening. But then every time you tweak something over here, then over here gets affected either positively or negatively. And then you come back and you tweak this, and then this gets affected. So you're just this teeter-tottering thing. And it's a very, very complex thing. You think about the economy. We can think about real estate as a whole, and that's easy, right? Sell, buy and sell, supply and demand. But then you start factoring in every other thing that goes into our economy. There's a lot, right? Everything rises and falls on it. So it's a very difficult thing. All right. He says, quote, there's a potential here for a substantial down payment self-assistance. But what effect would this have on the housing market? This is a demand-side attempt to solve the affordability crisis. At first blush, it might seem great to free up these previously illiquid assets for a down payment. Home prices will also go up in response. This is a fair argument. If the government gave everyone, this is the hypothetical, this is the scenario, If the government gave everyone a $20,000 check that could only be used on down payments, house prices would go up by a similar amount, right? If everybody got that, and the majority of 401k, now you got to have a 401k to be able to do this, but let's just hypothetically. So the net effect on overall market affordability would probably be quite small. In the supply-constrained Northeast and Midwest, such a reform could make the affordability issue even worse, right? Why is that? Because you lose more supply. So your supply and demand gets altered because you got more people now that would not normally have bought a house, buying the house. Then you know people that are coming with that kind of down payment assistance through their 401ks, it's going to cause the price to go back up. So we end up with a high inflation. So that's the argument. It's a fair argument. So this is, again, why you float information out into the media. You get professionals' opinions on that outside of your own little pocket. So there's a good strategy, regardless if you like Trump or not. There's a good strategy in floating information out into the media and getting other people's and other professionals' opinions that are economists to then give their opinion that your counsel can then listen to bring back to you to see if it's a good idea or not. Otherwise, you're operating as a silo. You are making decisions based on your information, based on your counsel, and that's not really a good way to make decisions. Let's seek answers from everywhere else, right? All right. We'll pause there and let me just pull some quick information out of this for you guys. What I would say here is I would pay very close attention to what's going on. Definitely none of this is law just yet, but here's where I would say would be a great thing to do. I would encourage you to either do a live show like this, do a video Q&A, host a webinar, host an in-person class with a financial planner. I would find, if you have a financial planner, great. Ask them to come in or go live or record a video with you discussing the pros and cons of real estate investment, managing your money well, investing in certain types of aspects, and talking to clients in general, buyers and sellers, about real estate on the financial side of things and how to plan their future. What a service that would be, right? It's on all fronts. Like, how do you take, your home as an investment and then your cash and invest in other places and just offer a financial planner to come in and do some Q&A with some of your clients, right? What a great service, right? Then you also now have established a relationship with a financial planner. You've given some value to them. They've had an opportunity to have a platform to talk about their experience and with clients and hopefully win business. And you build a relationship with your financial planner or a financial planner. So then when certain things like this could come through regulation, you have somebody you can pick up the phone as a personal relationship and just say, hey, this kind of happened. What does this mean? And would you like to come back and do another Q&A in regards to this policy change? This is value, guys. This is huge value. Huge value, right? All right. The next thing I would do is I would show clients like what does down payment look like? Like, how do you save for down payment? How much does that save you money in the long run? And then what kind of incentives are out there for them to be able to then navigate this, right? I think just having that buyer consultation, talking to them about the pros and cons of down payment, rolling it into your loan, that kind of stuff. There's not really much more to draw out of this at this point because it's not in law by any means. All right, there we go. Very good conversation there, just to keep on our forefront of our minds that things could come out of this, right? Things could happen. We need to be aware of that. All right, guys, now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. But we've been talking about news. We've been talking about all those type of things. If you guys have any comments or any ideas or opinions, throw it in the comments. Let me know. Ask me a question. Fully embrace that. Love that. Those that are watching me, again, thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate that. And those on TikTok, sorry that I'm not able to share my screen. I know I keep saying that, but look, I've got 2 more streams to be able to do that, and then I won't have to say this anymore. So those are watching other places, you won't be annoyed. All right. So this article that we're getting into, now we're switching gears. I'm going to switch gears now, talking specifically to agents, giving some advice and some articles that I found that I think this is very good for us to think about as we go into the new year. Okay. All right. The title of this, and this is by Inman News, Inman, INMAN.com. You have to be a member to join this and get access to certain articles and that kind of stuff. But I like them a lot. I think they've just got good material. I like RIS Media. I like them as well. Housing Wire. Those are all great sources. They have great value for agents. They all come at a cost, tax deductible. I'm not an affiliate of them. Make no money off if you sign up for one or the other. I don't care about that. They have good value. You can read and stay informed, that kind of stuff. My goal here is to point you to good news sources and elaborate on the news sources I find. But back to the article. This one is 4 common client losing mistakes agents make on their social media. Okay, here we are on social media right now. So let's talk through this. And the beginning title of this says, is your social media more cringe than crispy? Contributor Kate Hulbert holds the mirror up to agents who chase trends and find themselves with fewer friends. I think this is a great conversation that we need to have, guys. I really, really do. I think this is good. So here's the beginning paragraph, and then we're going to dissect this one, okay? So bear with me, take notes. Let's think through this, okay? All right. Begins. For years, real estate agents have been told the same thing. Get on social media. That's how you build your sphere. Stay top of mind, connect with clients, and market your listings. It's the most effective, free-ish, very true, it can be very expensive, marketing available. And for many agents, it feels non-negotiable. How many of you guys would say that's absolutely true, right? That I have to be on social media. Everybody tells me I got to do these type of things. And then I got to jump on the bandwagon of every single trend that's out there. I got to do all the crazy stuff that everybody else is doing to get myself noticed, get the likes, get the clicks, get the follows, get the subscribers, all those type of things, right? That is what we fall into. All right. Social media has become a core part of how agents build their brand. But somewhere along the way, the pressure to stay visible has blurred the line between strategic marketing and posting just to keep up. Here are 4 ways that agents who are chasing trends may be losing clients and potential business. All right. The very first one that's a trap is the consistency trap. The consistency trap. So it goes on. So you start posting. You put yourself out there, filming for property walkthroughs, sharing day in the life clips, talking market updates from the car, trying to show people you're a real human. Hopefully you're doing those things, right? Hopefully you're showing people that you are a real human. Not just a headshot with a license number, you are real. You quickly learn that the algorithm rewards consistency, and that's where things start to get tricky. The pressure to post something begins to outweigh the strategy behind what you're posting. This is so true. Here's the thing. Are you a influencer, a real estate influencer, or are you a professional real estate agent? You can be kind of both to some degree, but when you fall into the trap that I'm now just throwing anything and everything out there because I see everybody else doing that and they're getting great engagement and they're getting great follows and they got a big follower base. What value are you delivering back to your clients that generate business from it? What value are you giving them? Are you getting a referral business? Are you being professional? Are you representing yourself and your brand and your company well, right? It's a trap sometimes, right? When content ideas start to run thin, the easiest way to keep the momentum going is to piggyback on trending reels. Sometimes those trends are even real estate related and they can genuinely boost reach. It's tempting and honestly logical to ride a wave of views and engagement when it's right there, but visibility doesn't always mean authority, and engagement doesn't always equal trust. You know, when I go and I think about what an agent is, when I start really getting down to the core about what we do, we help navigate a very, very complex situation with people. We need to know them in and out. We need to know their kids' names, their birthdays, their anniversaries, the pets' names. We need to know why they're moving, what the idea behind moving is, what their pain points are, what they're really looking for. The actual conversation between two people is so crucial to helping them navigate something that's extremely, extremely difficult. Yes, social media helps capture the attention, but the reality is if all you're doing is chasing the trend and trying to keep up with some kind of content algorithm to get more followers and boosts and all this kind of stuff, the client gets left behind because you only have so much time in a day. And if you spend more time thinking about the best new way to kind of get onto the trend, you're negating a relationship with a real real live person that is ready to buy or sell, that also knows other people. So when you're posting stuff on social media and you're doing these type of things, pay attention to what you're doing and say, is all this work that I'm pouring into this contributing true value back to the people that are watching this? And how many of all of my followers and subscribers are truly clients of mine that is converting to actual money? How many of these people am I truly helping to buy and sell a house? Or how many of them are just random people following on my page and just liking and commenting and subscribing, but not contributing to my value at all, or allowing me to represent them as a professional, right? Look at this and audit your systems and see if what you're doing is providing true value back. I'm not saying you can't have fun though. You got to be human, have some fun. Not saying that, but don't fall into the trap of always needing to be consistently posting and fall into this where you're just following the trends, right? All right. Number 2 is this: when trends stop serving your brand. Once we start chasing views and likes, it's surprisingly easy to lower the bar without noticing. For professionals, especially in an industry like real estate, trend chasing can pull your content away from your actual. Start prioritizing entertainment over credibility. And eventually, your online presence begins to feel disconnected from who you are as a professional. I just got a notification. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys, but pause for just a second. TikTok has sent me a notification. It says my live stream will end in 4 minutes and 42 seconds. We have detected inactivity during your current live. Complete the verification to. Oh, okay. Oops. Hold on. I got to verify. This is all new. I got to verify that I'm still here. Okay. I extended that time. All right. There we go. All right. Good. So when trends stop serving your brand, all right. So this is absolutely true. It's a distraction from us as being true professionals, right? So we got to make sure that we stay professionals and credible in all that we do. It goes on to say real estate is particularly prone to this because social media is one of our main marketing platforms. It's where we all market. It's where we find our clients, where we engage, and that kind of stuff. Everyone is posting. Everyone is competing for attention, and when it feels like you need to stand out, grabbing a trend can feel like the simplest way to do it. It's a trap. It can be a trap. I would look through everything that I do and make sure that what I am posting is providing some kind of worth back to the client, right? And even, but here's the question worth asking. Are those views worth the cost? Are those views that you're getting worth the cost, right? All right, the next one is the professionalism gap. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't jump on a great trend. Some are funny, harmless, and genuinely effective. I'm saying the habit of chasing trends can quietly push you into content that feels unprofessional or off-brand, and you might not realize it until it starts working against you. Most of this stuff is very slow. Here's the thing. You have fun making the reels and the Instagram stuff and the TikToks, all this kind of, it's all fun. And you think, and you start just jumping on every single trend, and you don't run it through the filter of, does this fit my brand? Is this relaying the information I want to relay to my clients? Is it helping me to be professional with my clients? And am I contributing value back in some way by doing these type of posts? This is that personal accountability factor. If what you're getting ready to post is just following a trend, you could easily fall into a trap where what you post is a bad reflection of your brand. And you might alienate some demographic. You could even fall into code of ethics situations. I've seen this happen. So you need to step back and not just randomly chase this post every day and post multiple videos and say, what is it that I'm posting? Is it going to run it through the code of ethics filter, run it through the professional filter, run it through my brand filter, right? Run it through the filters and say, does this ultimately relay the message that I want to be reminding my people that I'm about, right? Run it through that. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't jump on a great trend. Okay, it might get a laugh from your followers, but how will a potential client interpret it? How might past clients perceive it? What about brokers, lenders, and other industry partners who pay attention, even if they're not double tapping, right? What is their opinion and perception of what you're doing? Watching what you do. Remember, this social media, it lives on forever. It blows my mind, some of the stuff people put on social media and then come in and try to get hired for a job, right? I mean, they'll get onto social media and bash their employer and bash their coworkers, cussing up a storm and saying all these derogatory things about them. Guys, that looks bad on you. It looks bad on you. The grace and maturity with professionalism, if you left someplace, would be taking the high road, holding yourself up high, and walking in integrity and honesty and wisdom and those type of things, and leaving that and being fine with it, and then going your merry way. But the stuff that's posted on there, it can reflect very, very badly on you. It might get a laugh from your followers. Okay. When we focus on quantity over quality, we forget something important. Your social media is basically your digital resume. 100%, guys. Look, I do a ton of hiring, firing, unfortunately, and recruiting and all those type of things. My entire life, my entire existence, it was doing that for many, 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 many years. I mean, to tell you the process, I will, if someone reaches out to me and they ask, hey, I'd like to come work for you, and I answered your call, I had your post there on social media about looking for this position to be filled. I'd love to do that. Here's my resume. You know what I do? And this is what I would be surprised if no employer does this. I do not open up the resume you sent me first. I don't do it. I take your name and I find you on social media on every single account, and I scrutinize every bit of it, right? I want to know who you are as a person before I even care about college and education and all those type of things, because there's hundreds of people that have that same type of resume. I go through those resumes all the time. Those resumes are the same. What differentiates the person that has a really good college and education, all this kind of resume, is what they're willing to put on social media. It goes with them. It travels with you guys, right? Why engagement metrics can be misleading. It's easy to focus on views, likes, shares, and saves, and to be motivated by them. We're all human. A high-performing reel hits like caffeine. It's an addiction. It's an addiction. Be careful. But if you're trying to balance professionalism with social media success, you have to zoom out and ask the harder questions. And here's the questions that she says to ask. So write these down, guys. Is my content driving inquiries? Is it leading to referrals? 100% agree with that one. Is it building brand recognition in a way I'm proud of? Is this attracting the right audience or just an audience? Is it attracting just an audience? So here they are again. Is my content driving inquiries? Am I actually throwing this out there and people are now engaging with me because they see that I'm value and I have professionalism? I can answer difficult questions for them. Is what I'm doing leading to those people that use me to refer more people to me? And then if the people I'm working with see my videos, make them want to refer me to more people? Is it building a brand that I'm proud of? Is this, when I post this video out, am I looking at this and saying, I'm proud of what that is? And is this attracting the right audience? Is this attracting the people that are ultimately going to be engaging with me, that find value in this? Or is it just an audience? Let me be honest here, even with you guys. Like, you guys have, if you've been here watching this whole thing this whole time, it's very clear who my audience is, right? Like, I'm appealing. My audience, my demographic is helping real estate agents to grow a very thriving business and be relational with them and connect with them and help them. That's my heart. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm doing this. And to be honest, I don't care about the audience. As far as like who they are or how big it is. I care that the audience is the people that I'm addressing, the people I'm talking to. So when I start talking about, material that I post and what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to build an audience of real estate agents only, right? Now, if you're here and you're a buyer or seller, great. Maybe you're getting some value from this, but it's very clear that my demographic is always going to be real estate agents, right? It's what I do on a daily basis. So that's my demographic. I'm going to make sure the content that I post is relating to them and not jumping onto any kind of crazy trend. I'm not saying I got it perfect, but I am saying that's my goal, right? That's my filter that I run all this stuff through. All right. And then a better framework for social media content, brand check. These are the questions she says to ask. Brand check. Does this align with how I want to be perceived professionally? Client check. Would my ideal client trust me more after seeing this? Longevity check. Will I still stand behind this a year from now? What I post now, if I look back a year ago, would I still be like, oh, I'm glad I did that? Or, ooh, cannot believe I did that. That's crazy, right? Yeah. And then purpose check. Is this entertaining and reinforcing my expertise, or is it just filling space? Is it just filling space? All right. Look, guys, the long game matters more than the algorithm. It really does. That's what she ended up saying at the very end there. The long game matters more than the algorithm. You are building a business. Rome wasn't built in a day. We've heard all the cliches. It's 100% true. There is no such thing as get rich quick in any business. There are exceptions, major exceptions, but it takes work, it takes grit, it takes sacrifice. It's very, very difficult. It is not easy. So here's what I would say if I was to dissect this and give you some actionable takeaways. What I challenge you to do is go back. Let's do like you guys will hear me say audit all the time. And I like auditing because I'm going back and I'm researching what I've done before to see if it still is valid today, right? So go back to your social media accounts and look through it and maybe employ like an 80-20 rule, right? Ensure that 80% of what you are posting on social media provides value, education, or some way to help the audience that you work with on a daily basis as an agent. Then use 20% of that is like selling your services, talking about things, being fun, being human, those type of things. But 80% of what you post, it needs to be providing something of value back, right? Even if it's a smaller audience, that audience is worth more to you because it's a relationship that you're building with that person. It's going to ultimately trust you in the end, right? All right. I would say, I would spend at least, 15. I've noticed this, and I've seen this in my own experience. Sorry, my mind's going to different places, but I've seen this. There's a few people that I follow that are great teachers in real estate, great teachers in life, right? Good pastors and things like that I listen to, and those type of things. The ones I come back to the most are the ones that engage me even inside of their own platforms. And I mean that as far as like the direct messages, the DMs. If I watch something and I found value of that, or if I had a question and I make a comment on something or I send them a DM, I don't expect them to reply. Let's be honest. I don't expect it. I say it. If they do, great. But what happens when they do, right? What happens when that person that took the time out of their day to respond to my comment or my DM directly and answer that question? So what I would say is focus on really good content, engaging questions, and get people engaging, and then spend 15 minutes a day replying to every single comment and every single DM to build that digital rapport, focusing on the relationship of that person, especially if that's somebody in your market. Okay. I would absolutely do that. All right. I had another article, but man, we are approaching quite a bit of time here. I might push this. Yeah, I'm going to push this to the next day. So I'm going to end today. I hope you guys have found some value here. And there has been something that you've taken from this that will help you grow your business, that will be value to you guys. That's why I'm doing this. And to be honest, I'm doing this also for myself. Obviously, it's for myself as well. When I'm reading these articles and I'm going through the information, it helps me to stay on point. It helps me to understand more about my industry, to help navigate it for my own agents. I'm doing this as my own self-practice, to be on point, to be aware about what things are going on. But at the same time, I'm inviting you to participate with me. That's the desire here. So if you've taken time to watch this, what can I say? But thank you so much. To be honest, I'm just a guy that's been in real estate for a long time on here talking. So that's the thing about it. And I want to build a community of people that think like me, that operate like good professional real estate agents, that want to grow their business and thrive in this industry for a long, long time. I want to see businesses succeed. So hopefully you found some kind of value. This was your real estate brief for today. If you did find this helpful, would you please consider hitting the like button, following, subscribing, whatever the social media platform you're watching this on requires. And then that would basically just help YouTube to know that this is valuable content that you find valuable. So other people that fit your definition of who you are as a viewer and would recommend it more to them. So please consider joining this community by doing that for me. I would greatly appreciate that. My goal here is to help you succeed, to grow a really, really strong, thriving real estate business. It's my heart, it's my desire, it's what I do every single day, day in and day out. I truly believe that this industry is relationship focused first, built upon referrals. So that's the goal here. And you know what? There's always so much more that I could be talking about, but this has been long enough. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern time. Take care.